My dear students and friends, today we'll be discussing Aristotle's theory of citizenship. This will be the fourth lecture on Aristotle. In this very short lecture, we will begin with a brief introduction as usual. Then we'll come to the categories of people who cannot be citizen according to Aristotle, because before defining citizenship or before explaining who a citizen is, Aristotle first identified the categories of people who cannot be given the status of citizenship. So after that we'll come to the definition of citizen and good citizen, ideal size, and why state-controlled education is important to make good citizen, and finally criticisms. As we have just said, let's come to a brief introduction. Let me just read out. Aristotle placed the theme of citizenship at the center of his political analysis or political thinking, because he believes in a law-based government, whereas Plato believes in the rule of philosopher kings, all the rules of the base minds, all the rules of the enlightened ones. Aristotle believed in constitution-based or law-based government. And in this law-based government, he placed citizenship at a very, very important or center stage. Constitutional government concerning citizenship rights allow people to compete for political office without civil chaos. When we look back to Plato, political office or political powers is confined to a particular class called the guardians or the philosopher kings. But in the case of Aristotle, this political office or political authority cannot be confined to one particular class. It should be open to all the citizens. So, in a constitutional government or law-based government, all the citizens has the rights to compete for political office, but without creating disharmony or anarchy in the state. Regarding the theory of citizenship, Aristotle first explains who could not be a citizen, or Aristotle first identified who are the categories of people who cannot be made a citizen in a state or in a city-state, and then only after that he explained to us who a citizen is. Now let us look at the categories of people who cannot be a citizen according to Aristotle. This includes foreigners or aliens. Next, women cannot be citizen in Aristotle's city-state. Older people or old men, young people or children, slave, manual laborers or working class, and there are also some other reasons which restricted citizenship to a small group of people, and all these categories of people are simply excluded from the purview of the scope of citizenship. Now let us look at the reason why these people are not allowed to be a citizen. First, foreigners or aliens who live in the state or who reside in the state cannot be a citizen because they are citizens of other states or other city-states. But as far as non-Greeks or the barbarians are concerned, these non-Greeks or barbarians cannot become a citizen in the Greek city-states even if they are not citizens of any other state. Simply, citizenship in the Greek city-states during the time of Aristotle, or according to Aristotle, was confined to only Greeks. Now, even if a person belongs to the Greeks. If she is a woman, she cannot become a citizen. Women are not allowed to become a citizen. Because according to Aristotle, women lack the deliberative faculty and the leisure to understand the working of politics. Women are capable of having some part of virtue and so are incapable of being citizens in the fullest sense, since they cannot develop the virtues of intellect. In other words, they are too absorbed in the family that they do not have enough time to participate in civic or political affairs. In short, Aristotle thought that women are less intelligent, women has less virtue, women are incapable to become a citizen. They are so much absorbed in the family household chores that they do not have enough time, they do not have enough intellectual capacity, or they do not have enough virtue to become a full citizen. So women are excluded from the purview of citizenship in the writings of Aristotle. Now the third categories of people who cannot be made citizens are old men. Aristotle stipulated that the old people, all the old men, could not be citizens, for they are infirm. In other words, infirm simply means that older people are no longer physically or mentally strong, primarily due to old age or illnesses. So they can no longer be part of active politics, and hence, since they are no longer part of active politics, they cannot be a citizen in the full sense. Similarly, young people or simply children cannot be given the status of citizenship, because children or these young people are immature. They are not yet mature in their thought, in their rational capacity, or they don't have the full virtue to be a citizen. So young people or children are also excluded from the scope of citizenship. The next categories are slabs. In the previous lecture, I was discussing about Aristotle's theory of slavery. According to Aristotle, there are two types of people, one who are born to be slaves and one who are born to be master. So these slabs do not have the necessary qualities, the necessary virtues to become a citizen. Slabs are slabs because their souls are not complete. They lack certain qualities such as the ability to think properly or reasonably, and so they needed to have a master, a citizen, to command over them what to do and what not to do. A natural slave had the reason only to the point of recognizing a command and obeying it. They are therefore excluded from being citizens. In short, a natural born slave has very little virtue or very little reasoning capacity to the point of understanding the command given by the masters. They could not think independently, so they cannot be made citizens. The six categories are working class or manual laborers. As far as the working class is concerned, though some states made them citizens during his time, Aristotle believed that they did not have, these working class or manual laborers did not have the aptitude or the leisure to display the true excellence to shoulder civic responsibilities. Since they have been too much involved in manual labor or physical work, they are incapable of developing virtues, and therefore they are more or less the same as the slabs. For this reason, they are also excluded from the purview of citizenry. Now, there is also some other factors why certain groups of people cannot become citizens. Aristotle says that citizenship was not to be determined by residence alone, since the resident aliens, as we have discussed in the first point, and Slabs, just before, also share a common residence with citizens. In modern days, if a person lives in a particular territory and if he is not a natural born citizen, he can still be a citizen by way of naturalization. But Aristotle thought that mere residence within the state doesn't guarantee a person to become a citizen, because foreigners also live in the same can live in the same place. Even the Slabs, the manual laborers, and women and young and old people can also live in the same place. So mere residence in a particular state doesn't guarantee citizenship. Similarly, citizenship cannot also be defined by the share one had in civic rights, to the extent of being entitled to sue and be sued in courts of law, for this right belong to aliens as well. Now, a person enjoying civil rights to the point of being sued or having the right to sue in the law courts doesn't guarantee citizenship, because all these civil rights are available even to the aliens or foreigners. So mere residence and enjoyment of civil rights doesn't guarantee a person to become a citizen. Then, if all these categories of people, that means aliens or foreigners, women, older people, children, slave, manual laborers, all these categories of people are excluded from the purview of citizenship, obviously we can assume that Aristotle defined citizenship in a very, very restricted manner. In short, a citizen should always be a man, a mature man, who is neither a children or a child or an orphan, a Greek, then a person who have family and enough property, including slaves. Only such categories of people are eligible to become a citizen. Apart from all these eligibility criteria, that person or that man, mature man, should take active part in the politics of the state, in the deliberative and judicial functions of the state. Only then that person can be called a citizen in that particular city-state, according to Aristotle. Now let's look at what a citizen is, or who a citizen is. To Aristotle, a citizen is one who enjoys the right to share in the deliberative or judicial offices and is able to exercise his political rights effectively. This is the simple but important definition of citizen according to Aristotle. Let me repeat again. According to Aristotle, a citizen is one who enjoys the right to share in the deliberative or judicial offices and is able to exercise his political rights effectively. In his own word, Aristotle said, "He who has the power to share in the deliberative or judicial office of any state is said to be a citizen of that state." And speaking generally, a city is a group of such persons adequate for a self-sufficient life. Unlike the present nation-state system, during the time of Plato, states were very small with very less population. It is a city-based state. So, in that kind of city-based state, or simply city-state, the number of citizenship is supposed to be not very large, and majority of the population or the people living in that state are excluded from the purview of citizenship. So Aristotle says that a city is a group of such persons just adequate. It should not be too large, it should not be too less, but just adequate for a self-sufficient life. For Aristotle, unlike in most governments today, citizenship is defined by political participation and authority, not by one's official status in a city or nation state. He further stated that citizen in the first sense cannot be better defined than by his participation in judicial or political offices. In short, unlike the present time, a citizen, according to Aristotle, should participate in the political, judicial, civic, or administrative affairs of the state. At present, you can stay home, you can lie down, you can remain either throughout your life, but you can still be a citizen. But according to Aristotle, such persons are not eligible to be a citizen. Even if a person is intelligent enough, even if a person has enough wealth, or even if a person has all the other necessary criteria, but remain idle, that kind of person cannot be a citizen. In other words, a disabled person or differently disabled person, an infirm, or a mentally retarded person cannot become citizens. A person should be physically fit, and at the same time he should have all the necessary qualities to be a citizen. In contemporary terms, citizenship is usually granted by birth or through a political process of naturalization on residents that allows them to participate in the political system in ways relevant to that system. But Aristotle defines citizenship in a very restricted manner, in which citizenship is a privilege enjoyed by only a few sections of the community. A family, Aristotle says, consists of husband or householder, wife, children, slaves, and property. And in such a family, the key figure is the head of the household or the householder, who acted as a link between the political community and his household. The political community means the state and his household. In short, only such householders can be given the status of a citizen if he possesses all the necessary qualities to be a citizen. What effectively distinguishes the citizen from all others is his participation in judgment and authority, that is, holding office, legal, political, administrative. Again, for Aristotle, a citizen is one who shares power in the polis or city-state, and unlike Plato, he did not distinguish between an active ruling group and a politically passive community. He is someone who participates in governance within the state and enjoys constitutional rights under the system of public law. Aristotle regarded citizenship as a bond forced by the intimacy of participation in public affairs. The bond is a relationship which is girded with some jealousy by those privileged to enjoy it. Citizenship was neither a right to be claimed nor a status to be conferred on anybody outside the established ranks of the class, no matter how worthy such an outsider might be. Now, in short, according to Aristotle, a citizen is a person or is a man who shares power in the city-state. He participates actively in the governance of the state and enjoys all constitutional rights under the political system. This citizenship is guarded by certain level or certain degree of jealousy. Meaning to say, people who are privileged enough to enjoy the status of citizenship feel jealous enough not to perform their duties well. They will all try to perform their duties in as much as possible. Citizenship is not simply a right which you can claim, because it is already there since your birth. Even if you are rich, even if you are high-ranking person in the social hierarchy, even if you are popular enough, if you are not supposed to be untitled, then you cannot be a citizen. For example, a foreigner or an alien, or a person who is born as a slave, or a person belonging to a manual laborer, or a person who is in such categories which are supposed to be excluded from the purview of citizenship can never be a citizen, even if they are good in their own field. Having enough wealth, property, is an important qualification to be a citizen. In other words, a man who doesn't possess enough wealth cannot become a citizen, even if he has all the necessary qualities. There are different kinds of citizens, but a citizen in the full sense is one who has a share in the privilege of rule, a share both in ruling and in being ruled, with a view to a life that is in accordance with goodness. Thus, for Aristotle, only those who are naturally born Adalmere, belonging to the property class, can become a citizen. Now, Aristotle also talks about a good citizen and a bad citizen. So who is a good citizen? Aristotle's definition of citizenship allows us for a neat and visible categorization schema for identifying better and worse citizens. Aristotle described a good citizen as someone who could live in harmony with the constitution. Who could respect the law, who could live according to the constitution or the law of the state, and had sufficient leisure time, sufficient free time to devote himself to the tasks and responsibilities of citizenship. That means to take part in the civil, administrative, political, or judicial functions of the state. In other words, a good citizen would have the intelligence and the ability to rule and be ruled. He should be able to rule, and at the same time, he should also have the intelligence to be ruled. To follow the commands of the rulers. A good citizen would possess certain virtue or moral goodness that would help in realizing a selfless and cooperative civic life. In his book Politics, Aristotle pointed out that only a good man can be a good citizen. As in a good man, so in a good citizen, there ought to be qualities such as cooperation, tolerance, self-control, which Aristotle says are imbibed by practice. In the real sense, a person cannot really be a citizen unless he possesses the virtues in full. All the good virtues like cooperation, tolerance, self-control, and the other points that we have discussed in full. An individual with imperfect virtue or no virtue at all cannot be a citizen. Aristotle regarded the existence of diversity of interest within a citizen body as essential to the practice of citizenship, for it was through a balance of this interest that good government was attained. In short, among the citizens, there has to be existence of diversity of interest. There has to be different opinions. There has to be different visions, different agendas, different way of articulating. And all these differences or diversity within a citizen body made the practice of citizenship a balanced one and thereby help in attaining good government. Now, what is the ideal size of citizenship in a state? Aristotle, as far as I understand, did not clearly define the size of citizenship. However, he says that the size of citizenship should not be too large or should not be too small. It should be just adequate to have a self-sufficient city life. Aristotle pointed out that in order to discharge functions effectively, citizens would inhabit a polis that was compact and close-knit. It should not be very large. It should be the city that, or the city-state should be compact and close-knit. Everyone should know each other and everyone should understand. I mean, at least all the citizens should be aware of the existence of each other. When Plato prescribed that the size of the citizens should be roughly around 5,000, Aristotle thought that this is too large because that would acquire, that 5,000 people would require unlimited space, such as the sprawling lands of Babylon. I mean, it would require too large a land for them to come together and deliberate on state issues. And this will also render impossible functions like military, command, public communications, and judicial pronouncements. Because, as we know, there won't be sound systems like we have today. And in a meeting or in an assembly, all the citizens has to come together. And if 5,000 of them come together, then it wouldn't be possible for all the 5,000 citizens to discuss or share their opinions. So, for Aristotle, even 5,000 is too large. He says a cohesive citizen body where everybody would know one another intimately would be able to settle disputes effectively and satisfactorily and distribute political offices according to the merit of the candidates. That means the size of the citizens should be not too small, but small enough to know each other intimately, to settle disputes effectively and satisfactorily, and to distribute political offices according to the merit of the candidates. In other words, all the citizens cannot remain idle. Everyone has to actively take part in the functions of the government according to their merit. The quality of citizenship would suffer in a larger political community due to lack of intimacy, so a relatively small size is what Aristotle prefers. Now, why did Aristotle give too much emphasis on state control or state-managed education? Even Plato had prescribed a very strict state control education system. Similarly, Aristotle also prescribed for the same. Aristotle pleaded for a responsible and effective form of education for citizenship. For this, he is committed to the idea of state-controlled education. This he considered was a cure for the corruption and political instability of his times. During his times in Athens, democracy was practiced. All democracy was there, and there was a lot of instability, there was a lot of disharmony, injustice, and chaos in the society. So Aristotle preferred a very strict, responsible or effective form of education which will be state-managed or state-controlled, because he thought that this state-managed or state-controlled education system will make the citizens a perfect one or a better one or a good citizen, and at the same time will reduce corruption and instability and the resulting political chaos during his time. He was critical of the casual manner in which the Athenian state, his own state, regarded the task of citizenship. As a corrective measure, he prescribed state-managed and state-controlled education system. So during his time in Athens, education was not strictly regulated. It was treated in a very casual manner. It was not given an important place. So Aristotle thought that education should be controlled by the state, managed by the state, and it should be made a responsible and effective one to make the citizens a good one. He believed that different styles of civic education should be used for different purposes. Whereas Plato emphasized training and self-sacrifice for rulers and obedience for the rule, Aristotle emphasized the need to match the educational objectives to the form of government. The task of education was, this is important, to inculcate moral, social, and civic qualities in an individual, develop habits of good citizenship, and in a good police, good persons. So the main task of education is to inculcate all the good things in a person so that he becomes a good man or a good citizen. To be a good citizen for Aristotle is to be a person of sound education, not just in depth but also in breadth. So to become a good citizen or a good person, according to Aristotle, one has to have a very sound education, not only in depth but also in breadth. The individuals could be educated in virtue to achieve their own happiness and excellence in congruence with common good. Once this is attained, citizens could be habituated through laws and political life to follow the virtuous path, resulting in a well-ordered public arena. Now let's come to criticisms of Aristotle's theory of citizenship. The first criticism of Aristotle's theory of citizenship is that critics says Aristotle's theory of citizenship is aristocratic, meaning citizenship is confined only to a small section or small elite group. It is not extended to any other person who belong to different categories, but only to the elite or to the wealthy, educated, and property groups. The second point is that it is not applicable in modern times. In modern times, except foreigners, everyone, whether male or female, young or old, everyone is given citizenship. Only foreigners or aliens are not given citizenship. So, obviously, it is not applicable in modern times. The third point is it can lead to discontentment and division. Since citizenship status is given to only few sections or a small section of the society, there can be discontentment and division among the state's population. And this discontentment or division can contribute to political instability and revolution. So back in the 19th century, some scholars had already pointed out that in a monarchy, only the monarch or the king will be a citizen according to Aristotle's definition of citizenship. The fourth point is his definition of full citizen. Aristotle's official definition of a citizen is a person who has a share in the offices. But this definition of full citizen and does not extend to a partial or imperfect citizen. So, his definition of citizenship is restricted to only those categories who would be considered as the full citizen. The rest are not included. The fifth point, that a good citizen may not be a good man. We have just discussed that according to Aristotle, a good citizen is always a good man. In other words, a good man can be a good citizen. But critics pointed out that a good man sometimes may not necessarily be a good citizen, or a good citizen may sometimes be may not be sometimes a good man, because a person may do his duty as a citizen according to the law, but that law could be wrong, or that law could be bad in principle. So even if a citizen performs his duties according to the law of the land, if the law that he follows, or the political and administrative systems that he follows, is based on that principle, then though he is a good citizen, he can still be a bad person. The sixth point is, it favors a particular class, particularly the class to which Aristotle belonged. Aristotle, when he talks about the government or different types of government, he seems to favor the middle class. He was not much in favor of the rich, not in favor of the poor, but he was in favor of the middle class. So this middle class is being preferred according to some critics because Aristotle himself belonged to that category. Aristotle says that the enthronement of the power to rule to the middle class, representing the happy mean between wealth and property. So some critics pointed out that since he belonged to the middle class, he is favoring the middle class. Last but not the least, his theory of citizenship is considered too conservative. Aristotle's idea of citizenship is very illiberal and scientific and natural and practical and conservative. So restricting the status of citizenship only to either mere who are naturally born as Greeks and who have family and enough property alone is very conservative and practicable and natural and scientific and illiberal. Thank you so much, and in the next lecture we will try to see Aristotle's theory of revolution.